Mandy, This Is Us is a big show. It's a giant success, and you were nominated for a Golden Globe for your role in it. Tell me about where you were in your life when this script came to you.
Ooh, wow. I was really contemplating whether or not I should continue acting.
Really?
Because I had done 3 failed TV pilots, which I know sounds so like, oh, boo-hoo, actress.
Well, that's your job.
It's my job, and the sort of deep sense of rejection that comes, that follows with not, having a creative endeavor move forward is pretty scarring in a way. And so I was really hesitant to kind of dip my toe back into throwing my name in the ring for a network TV pilot. But I read the script, and I was just obsessed with it. I didn't see the twist at the end of the first episode coming, and I was like, okay, whatever I need to do to be a part of this, I will do.
And was it a lot of pressure? Because I know you say it seems like a first world problems kind of thing, having 3, but really, again, this is your job. If you are an actor and you can't act, then you can't work.
Sure. And I was like, should I go back to school? Should I just go back to music? Like, I was really and I was in the midst of like a crazy divorce, and like things were just not lining up for me, which is fine.
Sure.
But I was curious as to whether or not I had some curse on me or something. If I was like a bad luck charm.
So was it one of those things where you went in on the set and you're thinking felt the pressure, this needs to go right and this needs to happen, or were you confident that it would?
Well, I wasn't confident necessarily, but I was so in love with the project, and I thought, you know what? I love this script, and if I'm lucky enough to be a part of this cast, I know at least that I'll be a part of something I'm proud of. And it's so completely out of my control whether or not it moves forward past just making that initial pilot episode.
Right.
And, I was hopeful, but I thought, why not?
How about your character? What did you love about Rebecca?
I'd never played a wife or a mother on screen before.
Right.
And so I was really interested to sort of figure all of that out, and the challenge of playing a mother, being a mother.
What's the challenge?
Just having no point of reference as to what it's like to have that kind of love and responsibility outside of yourself. And I didn't know at the time, but that I would be playing this character from 23 to 66. So this fully evolved and fully realized person, sort of in the prime of her life at 66, but also a woman who I came to discover had lost a husband, who was remarried, who's, seen grandchildren come into the world and her own children get married and divorced. And this is a woman who's lived a full life. And so I don't necessarily have that to relate to as well. So trying to find common ground and find my footing with it has been had its own sets of challenges too.
It's funny you mentioned that common ground, because you do portray Rebecca, the mother of these 3 children, really effectively. I feel a lot of emotions watching the show, as I think a lot of people do. But I feel I miss my mom when I watch it.
Wow, that means a lot to hear.
But I mean that. I can only imagine, in order to do that so effectively, because you hear that story. I don't have kids either. But you hear that story where, you pick up the child for the first time, something changes, and all of a sudden someone outside of yourself is the most important thing in your life. And you feel that in your role.
Oh, thanks.
Who are you channeling to make that happen?
I don't know.
Really?
I don't know, honestly. I was just saying this morning, I don't really have a ton of friends who have kids either. My siblings don't have children, so it's not like I have nieces and nephews to pal around with. I am someone who's not innately comfortable in that role. I want a family of my own someday, for sure. I always have wanted to have kids and to be a mother, but I don't have a ton of experience, so I don't know who I'm channeling.
So you're not in the trailer thinking okay, sitting in your chair, gonna go out, I'm gonna put myself in this person.
Not for the younger Rebecca. I guess not even really the older Rebecca. I think about it more as energetically. I know it sounds so actorly and weird, but energetically, I really thought about to make the distinction between these 2 women. The majority of the season, I've played this woman as a 38-year-old mother of 8-year-olds. And I thought about her energy emanating from her hands and her heart because she's sort of like in the thick of being a mother and just giving so much of herself to her family. And as she gets older and transitioning into like the 66-year-old version, I thought about her energy emanating like from the top of her head, as if it's like a lamp and you take the lampshade off and the light bulb is just shining directly up. Like there's a wisdom and a clarity that comes with age and a groundedness and a sure-footedness that can only come with like wisdom and time.
Yeah, because in many ways it feels like if you look after your children for, say, 20 years,
Yeah.
a lot of energy is going towards them for 20 years. And that's 20 years.
20 years.
And then the children move out, ideally, or
and
they're
you're able to like turn the focus back inward.
It's not always easy.
Yeah, I can imagine it's not. And again, a woman who's like lost a spouse and has been remarried and God knows what else has happened in, the course of those 20 years, those next 20 years. It's really interesting to me.
I know you say you're not channeling anyone in particular, but I know you did watch childbirth videos.
I did.
While getting ready for Is this true?
I did, for the pilot. Because that first episode, I give birth and I was like, so much of what I have to do in the episode, there's not a ton, but it kind of just exists like through the labor process. And I was like, I want to get it right. I don't want to just be like, bearing down, screaming in pain. I was like, I'm sure I've heard from my friends, like it doesn't just sort of live in that like, sense of pain or whatnot. It's very nuanced. And so I decided to watch some childbirth videos on YouTube, which is a terrible mistake because now I'm terrified to have a kid. But so much respect for women, so much unending respect for women. But after watching like 2 or 3 of those, I was like, I think I have the gist of it. I'm good. I relied more on, we had a nurse on set who sort of walked me through the different stages. And she's like, this is what your body's doing at this point. This is the amount of pain, the degree of pain you would feel. Yeah. And I found that so much more helpful. As
you mentioned, you also play, in addition to playing, it's a very interesting role because you play the mother before the children are born, the mother when the children are around 8 years old, the mother when the children are all grown up, who's in her 60s.
66, yeah.
What was it like the first time you put on the makeup? I know from following you on Instagram, you regularly put up Instagram stories of just this seemingly hours and hours of makeup.
4 hours.
4 hours of makeup to turn you into a 66-year-old woman. What was it like the first time you embodied the 66-year-old Rebecca?
We did about 6 different makeup tests before we settled on like this particular way of putting it on and this particular approach. So I had plenty of time to sort of figure out who this woman was. But the first time I actually like put it on and then was on camera, it was remarkable. It was I had this scene with Ron Cephas Jones, who plays William, who plays the biological father whose child I adopted, his child, and it was really nerve-wracking trying to go toe-to-toe because he's a remarkable actor, as is Sterling, as is everyone on the show. But there was something fundamentally that felt different, like in my being. I've never experienced that. I don't know. It's hard to articulate. I think maybe because I had so much time and preparation to sort of go into my own head and listen to music and get calm and get to a very zen place. And then just showing up on set, I felt this like crazy, palpable rush of adrenaline like you get before you go on stage or something. I felt, which doesn't necessarily happen when you're filming stuff because you're so comfortable in the environment and your character and the crew, and the stakes just don't feel very high, but the stakes felt so just on another level, I think, when I shot that first time in those prosthetics.
But I can only imagine staring at yourself in the mirror and not only not recognizing yourself, but almost recognizing an older version of yourself of what you could look like.
Yeah.
That has to be strange.
It's strange, but it was beautiful, too. I was like, wow, first of all, I need to know what Rebecca's secret is. She looks great for 66. What skincare does she use? But it is weird. And it's weird to not recognize, like, everyone's asked me, do you look like your mom or do you look like your grandma? And I can't really see either of them and I'm a little, like, I play a little bit older than my mom is in real life, but I can't really see that. I just see Rebecca Rebecca. I think maybe because of the haircut and the glasses and the clothing, but it's hard to see past it.
Speaking of Rebecca, I want to play a clip from This Is Us right now. In the scene, you're the younger version of Rebecca. You're about to go into labor in a few hours. You're tired. You're irritable. Your belly is I'll say your belly's out to here, which is hard for the radio, but for TV, we'll say
pregnant with triplets.
Pregnant with triplets.
Yeah.
You've kicked your husband out of the house.
Oh, no.
And you realize after you've done that it's his birthday. You feel awful. You plop down in the nursery, and you give this speech to your unborn children.
I'm impatient. And I'm stubborn. And I stole an Abba Zaba bar from the grocery store in 4th grade, and I'm terrified that I'm gonna make 100 wrong decisions and ruin the chances you guys have to lead the perfect lives that you deserve, but I will protect you fiercely.
I get emotional hearing that stuff.
Yeah?
Yeah. I feel this character so deeply in these stories. And yeah, I'm like, oh my God, I feel so lucky that I got to give that beautifully written monologue.
Here, take a
Crying
tissue.
hearing myself is so terrible.
No, it's not.
I'm not crying at my performance. I'm crying. We just I can't believe the good fortune that I have to be a part of this show that makes everybody feel all of their feelings, but just the writing is on such another level. We have the most incredible writers, and Dan Fogelman, who created the show and who wrote this particular episode. It's just I don't know what little special sauce they're able to sprinkle on everything. It's pretty remarkable.
One of the reasons that scene is so touching is because we learn, not to give anything away, but I think it's okay. It's the premise of the show.
It's already aired.
Is that you lose one of the triplets during childbirth.
Yeah.
I'm not ruining anything for anyone by saying your character later loses her husband, Jack.
Yes.
How does loss shape who Rebecca is?
I think it becomes a fundamental part of her constitution and her will to just put one foot in front of the other. I can't imagine that kind of loss. I can't. And it's crazy being a part of a show like this too, and just the world we live in these days, the accessibility we all have because of social media and hearing from women who've been in similar positions and who've lost children or who've lost spouses, and how much the show touches them and how respectful they are and feel the show sort of handles these particular situations. But it's an honor, and I think it truly shapes who this woman is moving forward. I can't see how it wouldn't. It just sort of it alters the course of her life. I mean, this is a woman who was unsure whether or not she wanted to have kids. I think she was scared to take that step. I think she ultimately felt in her guts this is the love of my life. This is the person I'm going to have a family. It's obviously going to be with this person. So to lose a child with him and then ultimately to lose him is heartbreaking. But I think it speaks to what an incredibly strong and resilient woman she is, that, she is able to move on. And I think there's a sense, she carries that loss, especially the older version. It's something that's not far from my mind whenever I'm filming scenes as present-day Rebecca. I think about, I don't think she's ever, obviously, lets go of the loss of Kyle, of the baby that she lost.
If you're just tuning in, I'm speaking with Mandy Moore, star of the hit series This Is Us, which airs on CTV here in Canada. Also a singer, but we'll get into that later. This Is Us is about a lot of things. At its core, it's about family. A really big thread running through it is shared family language and family traditions and how they came to be. I'm thinking about the Super Bowl, watching football together.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about the birthday dance in the very first scene of the very first show.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about Thanksgiving. The interesting thing you were just talking about loss just then is when I watch the show, and I think this is common, you're kind of 3/4 watching it, and you're 1/4 putting yourself into it. You're thinking of moments that
you can relate back to your life.
Exactly.
Yeah.
What kind of traditions were important to you growing up? I'm interested to hear that.
Although I feel like I had the quintessential perfect family or normal family, we didn't have too many weird traditions. So it's I don't know. We didn't have traditions in the same way that this family does.
You didn't have a Christmas every year. You'd all do the.
I mean, nothing crazy. Like, we would have scrambled eggs and bacon on Christmas Eve because that was all my parents had, like, in their refrigerator their first, like, Christmas Eve together.
That's nice.
I know, but, like, that's not anything too, like, super random or anything. We didn't have anything quite like the Pearsons do. So that's why I appreciate that, because that's something I want to carry into my own family one day, is start those traditions.
But just like the scrambled eggs and bacon, these traditions themselves are simple. It's not the artifacts of the tradition. It's the
That's
meaning
true.
that we imbue
Yes,
into them.
Absolutely. But like the little ball of yarn and passing that around at the table and talking about what we're thankful for is a unique way to sort of approach that sort of tradition, I guess.
I think what strikes me in saying what I said earlier about you kind of think about how you relate to this show as you
Sure.
watch it. I don't have to stretch too far to say the show takes place in the 80s and the 90s. This is when you were growing up too.
Oh, yeah.
Do you find yourself putting a lot of your own experiences or reflecting it back on you while you're in it?
I do. I think you can't help but think about your upbringing and your family and sort of the life that you led. And it also informs so much about like wanting to be a parent myself one day. It's interesting.
What do you mean? What do you mean?
Well, I'm like, it's like activated something in me very much that like I'm so ready to be a parent. And I don't know if it's being a part of a show like this, if it's holding newborn babies all the time, I think it's a combination of just also being in that phase of my life. I'm almost 33 and, I'm definitely ready for that next chapter. But I think being a part of having my creative life revolve so much around family and, like you said, the traditions of family and the shared language that a family has. All of that just it has me thinking.
33?
Yeah.
And the turning point, which I didn't know. I'm 29. I didn't know that the 36 was a turning point. I don't think 36 was a turning point in most people's lives until This Is Us came on as some sort of marker between I guess young adulthood and adulthood and true adulthood. You're coming up on it.
I'm coming up on it.
3 years.
Yeah.
What has this role of Rebecca, this 36 year that seems to be the main age focus in the show? How are you feeling about getting there?
I'm ready. Absolutely. I've always been ready. I'm ready to get older. I'm ready for everything that sort of comes along with it.
It seems like an interesting perspective to have. I know you had a bit of a rough few years.
I did.
You put your career on hold for a while.
I did.
You went through a very public marriage and another public divorce.
I did.
How are you coming out of it?
I feel okay. Maybe you wouldn't have had that same response a couple of years ago, but I'm a big believer that everything happens for a reason, and I don't begrudge any of those experiences as truly soul-crushing and heartbreaking as they may have been. It's all led me to where I am today, and so I'm appreciative for all of it.
That's a hard place to get.
It does take time, but, I kind of even felt that way when I was in the midst of it, like the midst of all of that. I really had faith and belief that, like, okay, there is a reason, there is a silver lining here, and maybe I don't realize it in the moment, but I think being an artist as well, it's so beneficial to have all of that life experience behind you and underneath your belt, like, because all I get to do every day is take pain, grief, joy, elation, like whatever's happening in my life, and I can just pour it into my work. It's like free therapy.
Mandy, it's been a joy speaking with you.
Likewise.
Before I let you go, I have to ask this. All morning, our producer there, Cora, she spent all morning listening to your old jams from the old days, and I'm just of the age too that these were my jams too.
Oh.
I have to ask: is there any more music coming from Mandy Moore in the future?
Jams. There's some jams coming down the line. I miss music, and I get to sing on the show. So I think it's reignited the fire of music, and I miss it.
I heard you not too long ago on YouTube singing with Taylor from Dawes.
Yeah, my man.
I wasn't going to say it. I want to make sure you feel comfortable. You guys sang a song together, and I thought Mandy Moore's back.
I'm back. No, I love music. I've been writing a lot the last couple of years, but I'm ready. I have a lot to say. I definitely want to work on a new record. So I will, sooner rather than later. And now that I have the show and I have that side of my creative brain fulfilled, I think it's kind of opened up this treasure trove of like, a wealth of emotion spilling out, and I'm ready to put it down onto tape.
It sounds like there's a lot to write about.
There's a lot. Yeah.
Mandy Moore, this has been really fun.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Mandy Moore is the star. I was about to read that. Look at that. Mandy, thank you so much for joining me today. That's what I was about to say out loud.
You don't need to read that.
No, I don't need.
We can just talk.
Mandy, thank you so much for joining.
You're so welcome.
I didn't look. Yeah, your line here is actually, "You're welcome, Tom."
You're welcome, Tom.
Nailed it. Mandy Moore is the star of NBC's This Is Us. It airs on CTV in Canada. You can also catch the show through video on demand. Feel free to cry and remember your dog.
Yeah.
Bye.